what a dated mentality to think that young women of color need to be humble in these spaces that we're already fighting to be in. She's doing amazing things, and I don't think she's a bad person. I haven't seen anything of her being rude or mean or a terrible person. People just don't like that she likes herself as much as she does. And that's
Yeah.
like, well, what's up with you?
Like, why does her confidence bother you so much? You get what I mean? Because you don't have to like someone, but
Right.
to just really go out of your way to be negative, that's when it becomes weird.
Very
Because
weird.
there's artists I personally don't like, but I'm not going on Twitter and social media just saying crazy things. That's the thing I just get confused about. That's why I feel a lot of the negativity just feels unwarranted. It just feels like a pile up. People just wanted to pile all the negativity on her because it's become a trend to do so. What's up, everybody? It's Ungazi, and I'm back with another episode of Afro Archives podcast. For today's episode, I'm speaking with Zinhle Ngema, a South African writer for OK Africa. Today's episode is all about Tyla and diving into the different narratives that have been circulating on social media since the rise of her stardom and just getting into what all the hate is about that has been leaving me and quite a few others confused. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And now let's get into today's episode. Thank you so much, Z, for joining me for my podcast, Afro Archives podcast. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Love what you're doing and very excited to talk about our girl Tyla.
So even before we get into diving more into, all the narratives that have been circulating about Tyla, I want to learn a bit more about you first. So the question that I love to ask my guests, the first question I love to ask is, what are three songs that define your journey of becoming a music enthusiast? Or if that's too hard, three artists.
Three. Okay, I can do that. I would say Fairy Tale by Liquid Deep. They're a South
Mhm.
African duo who actually just reunited, so shout out. Fairy Tale by Liquid Deep. Um, Active Child is the name of the white man who plays the harp, and the song is called Evening Ceremony. And then the third one, wow, maybe Ingoma by Tandiswa Mazwai, who is a South African artist.
Honestly, you're my first guest who was able to have three songs because typically it's really hard for people. So you're my
Oh,
first
wow,
guest to
thank
do that.
you.
Yeah.
I'm a Libra, so you saying that I just did that
Yeah.
quick? Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Okay, so now we're gonna get slowly into talking about Tyla. So I know at the 2024 VMAs on the red carpet, you guys shared a really sweet moment. So can you tell me about that moment?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So we had reached out to chat with her, but she was, moving and grooving and stuff. And so she just looked so cute. And I figured everyone was yelling Tyla, 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 that I would just speak to her in Zulu and that would surely, stick out. And it did. And she was having a moment and stopped by and we just had a little moment, a little cute little kiki. And then she went on her way. And I was just I felt so because I can imagine those spaces are so overwhelming. And so I
Definitely.
just wanted her to be like, oh, there's
Yeah,
a
like
South African.
yeah, to have like a little piece of home, and I'm sure like she really appreciated it in that moment. Like you said, it's overwhelming. Cameras are flashing, people are shouting, moving you around. So I'm sure that really helped to just give her a bit of peace in that moment, that sweet moment. So
Oh,
yeah. And
thank
then also, I know you were also at the event that YouTube had for her debut album. So how was being a part of that before like the album took off officially?
It's always really cool to be in those spaces because the artist is talking to us about, what went into it. And so hearing her speak about it and be so excited but so nervous was exciting. And I love her debut album. So hearing it was like, oh my gosh, so excited for it to for the world to kind of embrace the sound that she's creating because it's her own thing. She's got influences, but it's hers. And so it was just very exciting.
Yeah, that album, that was honestly one of my summer albums of 2024. It was
Right.
in rotation, like she
No,
didn't miss. Yeah, no, literally no skips. And it's really hard to do that these days,
yeah.
honestly. Yeah. And then so backtracking a little bit. So when were you first introduced to Tyla's music?
So I actually, I there's a song called Ta Ta Ah that she
Uh,
does with. DJ Maporisa and Young Stunner and a bunch of people. And I had heard that song, but I didn't know it was her until I think she started performing it now recently, and I went, "Ah, no, she's
Uh,
been just kind of planting seeds the whole time."
yeah.
But I officially, because I know she was on not TikTok, but the one before, and she was dancing and
Vine. I think it was a Vine, or was it
crying
the
or
other one? Yeah.
something where she
I know
was,
what you're talking about. Yeah.
doing things, and I was not, so I didn't know about that. But when Water came out, I had heard it on, I was living in the US at that time. I left South Africa in 2019. And so that came out, and I was like, wait. And I had heard it actually here locally in New York before
Uh,
I had really known back home how it had been taking off too. So
yeah.
that was really exciting to be like, wow, I'm here. And so is our music. But yeah, it was definitely Water when I became a Tyler girly.
No, for me, I think my introduction was the her song "Getting Late" because of the music video. So that helped to introduce me into her music, and then after that, it was her collaboration with Ira Starr, "Girl Next Door," and I was like, okay, wait, I need to learn more about Tyla, get more into her music because I love Ira. So I was like, okay, let me learn more about Tyla too, and that was 2023, and then also I think shortly after, that's when Water came out too. And then from there, as we know, she took off. So that got me into just wanting to learn more about her artistry and just her music overall. And that takes me to my first point. So one of the narratives that people have been saying is that Tyla is an industry plant. So what are your thoughts on that take?
I mean, I guess what an industry plant is, the forces that be find one person and they put a lot of money and energy behind you. But it's like, I'm sure there is some truth to that. But Tyler is very talented, you know? So it's, yes, I'm sure that there are a lot of people in the industry and around her who are trying to see her really just become as big as she has. I mean, in I almost said modern history, which sounds so old, but like for real, in modern history, I can't think of a South African artist who's blown up the way that she has. And so I'm sure that there is a lot of motivation and ammunition behind her, but I don't think it's as insidious as people are trying to make it out to be. You know what I mean?
Right. And as you were saying, it felt as though she's been planting seeds even before Water took off. And I just think in her case, it was the virality, she took it and ran with it because she was already prepared, she was already determined. So it was just that combination and that formula that just put her on so many different platforms and getting her in front of so many different eyes and her becoming global, you know what I mean?
And she's a social media girly, you know,
Mhm.
like she knows how to get the people to see her. She knows how to get, attention. And so she was singing on social media too. So it's not like it just came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
you know?
And even when she was really young, doing YouTube covers. So she's been out here. She's been making a presence for herself. Yeah.
Let her cook. Oh my
So like, yeah, exactly. I also wanted to just list off some of her other wins as well, even before Water took off. I know she performed at Afrochella, which is now Afrofuture in 2021. Then of course her singles like Getting Late that I talked about, To Last and Been Thinking. So those helped to build her fan base and also get her, just building that fan base in terms of the amapiano space. And then also she signed to Epic Records. So the next point or the next topic, I want to talk about the whole quote unquote uppity African commentary that, and
God.
that was also the same VMAs that you were in attendance for. And, the whole situation of her handing off the awards because she was saying it was too heavy, everything like that. Also, I remember on an OK Africa post, it was unrelated to the VMAs moment, but people were just talking about her personality, saying that it's off putting, entitled, she's not humble. And something that stuck to me, someone said that she came in trying to force herself on Black Americans. So, where do you think all of this heat stems from? Like, is it her outward confidence, her being unapologetic? Like, what do you think it is?
I think it's hateration, number one,
Mm,
but I also think that it's sprinkled in xenophobia.
yeah.
Because what do you mean? Like, the phrase uppity African comes from what? Uppity Negro, which was a
Mm,
racial slur and very offensive. And so, how, like, what? You are, she's a pop star, part of the allure, part of the part of the spark is that they are like, I'm that girl and I know it and you know it and we know it.
Mhm.
And so she's this young woman, trying to build her career, and people are trying to, like, well, she should be insecure. How do you build
Mhm.
success? How do you, especially in the creative world, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe what you're making, not a lot of other people will, and even if they do, you won't get to enjoy it the way that you should. And so it's just so disappointing. And it's also like we don't even need, white supremacy or white homogeny in the room because we're just doing it to each other. It
Exactly.
There's no like there's no good that can come from conversations like that.
Yeah,
How have
it's a
you, as you are African American, how have you been experiencing that?
yeah. I mean, because I consider myself Nigerian American, and I don't know. I just think it's just I think as African women, sometimes they want you to come into spaces like not timid, but they don't want you to be your full self. And I think that's the case of how it is for Tyla. She didn't try to dim her light early on. She came in blazing. She's like, "This is who I am. Accept it. If not, whatever." And I don't think people have been really receptive to that. Maybe they just expected her to build up and show her personality as she comes along and grows more into her artistry, but she already knew who she was. It wasn't this thing of her trying to figure it out. She came in, I know what it is, I know who I am. And I just don't think people have been too receptive to that, honestly.
Yeah, and what a dated mentality to think that young women of color need to be humble
Mhm.
in these spaces that we're already fighting to be in. You know,
Exactly.
she's doing amazing things, and I don't think she's a bad person. I haven't seen anything of her being rude or mean or a terrible person. People just don't like that she likes herself as much as she does. And that's
Yeah.
like, well, what's up with you?
Like, why does her confidence bother you so
What's
much? You get what I mean? Because you don't have to like someone, but
right?
to just really go out of your way to be negative, that's when it becomes weird.
Very
Because
weird.
there's artists I personally don't like, but I'm not going on Twitter and social media just saying crazy things. That's the thing I just get confused about. That's why I feel a lot of the negativity just feels unwarranted. It just feels like a pile up. People just want to pile all the negativity on her because it's become a trend to do so. So it's
Uh-huh.
just been really odd, honest. It's getting more weird as time goes on.
Yeah,
So
I agree, especially because there are other African women artists who similarly are very confident in the way that they show up in the world, and yet we celebrate them for that. And
exactly.
so, yeah, it is weird.
Yeah. And then going back to the VMAs, that also sparked another moment where she won the best Afrobeat song. And she also mentioned how with these award shows that they tend to group all African artists under Afrobeats. So she already helped to bring that explanation to the forefront and just making sure that they're aware of that there's a lot of diversity within African music. And she herself, she's described her sound as pop piano, but of course there's R&B influences. But of course there's still uproar. She's like of people being like, okay, how did she win this award? She's not Afrobeats. But my thing is, what is she supposed to do? Like, is she supposed to be like, don't nominate me, just eliminate
Please,
me
no,
from
thank
the like, I don't understand what people want from her because it's similar to how with other award shows how they treat black artists when it comes to R&B and hip hop. So I don't understand like why when it's her then it's this whole thing of oh she's not Afrobeats yada yada, but what is she supposed to do? So that's why I get confused.
It's very confusing. And I mean, for as long as we're going to ask these spaces that have never included us to include us, and they give us a little draw in their friggin' mansions, uh, the- uh, they barely
Yeah.
wanted us in the room. You think they're gonna
Mm,
care about nuance, and you think they're
yeah.
gonna care about like the actual, like you're saying. But she just every time they say Tyler, you won, she just needs to hide under her table. She said, I make this, I don't make that,"
Mm.
and they just keep.
Yeah, it'll be different if she wasn't making it clear, but she's made it clear. So what happens after that has nothing to do with her at that
And
point.
at the same time, she's a human being who is in
Mhm.
her early 20s and who wanted to make music, and now she's winning really cool and sick awards.
Yeah.
Like. that's part of the story too, but we're just so angry.
And honestly, now that you mention that too, I feel this negativity also takes away from her recognition and her getting that praise. I wonder how that feels like for her too, because like, dang, like I won an award. This is a really cool award, but here people go saying, "Oh, you don't deserve that," and everything like that. I don't know. I feel like that's tough, a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it definitely does. And then, so another viral moment was her WWP, the We Want to Party EP, how people were saying it was a flop. And I think also this was a moment where it really confirmed to me that people just really want to humble her and take any opportunity to just drag her when they can. And I know also OK Africa reported that Billboard charts counts 1,500 on-demand audio streams from a single album as the equivalent of one album unit sale. And also just a reminder of how streaming is king in this day and age. We're in 2025, and people aren't really focusing on physical and digital sales.
Mhm.
And I mean, when people were talking about that, I just thought to myself, when did we really look deeply into EPs? Because my thing is EPs are supposed to be an extension of the full project that's coming. So
Mhm.
when did we really say, oh, this EP isn't successful? I don't really think we typically do that. Like, am I wrong?
No, you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. Have you ever heard the saying you're looking for a nipple on an ant?
I haven't, but that's interesting.
Like, girl, what do you mean? It's such an
Yeah.
outdated way of looking at music. And yes, granted, it would be cool if we were back in those days, but we're not. And it doesn't hold the same weight. You're just trying to, it's just hateration. You're trying to just
Yeah.
find anything bad or anything misleading to focus on when she's doing great.
Yeah, and it was literally 4 songs. So I'm like, what do you people want? So that was just that whole thing was really odd to me. As I've been saying, everything has just been odd. And then and then getting into more recent news, I'm sure you saw that clip of Tiwa Savage on The Breakfast Club where basically she was apologizing on behalf of Tyla for doubling down on her statement of her identifying as colored. So it's a really tricky topic and, sensitive topic. But what are your thoughts about that of how Tiwa kind of inputted? I mean, they asked her the question, right? But I guess her response to it.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is just very disappointing. I
Mm,
think the way that the Breakfast Club themselves are using something as intimate as race as like a hot topic is just really gross and
mm,
irresponsible. Um, I feel bad for Tiwa, to be honest. You could tell that she was very uncomfortable. You could tell that she did not want to be talking about that. I mean, could she have said, I'm Nigerian? Nigeria has 250 tribes. I don't know the nuances of South Africa's ethnic
mm,
demographic. Yes, in a perfect world. But ultimately, they were trying to get like a gotcha. They were trying to like just be ignorant, which is
yeah.
how they've come across. Because as many people have said, Africa is not a monolith. We're not a country, we're a continent. And would it be beautiful if everyone knew everything about everyone? Yes, sure, but we don't. And yeah, it was just so unnecessary.
I agree. Because even when she said, I know you guys are from two different places, it's like, okay, that's the end of
Okay,
the
so
conversation there. We don't need to move any further. Because as you were saying, Tiwa can't speak to Tyla's experience as a South African woman the same as Tyla can't speak to her experience as a Nigerian woman. So I just think the whole conversation didn't need to be had. But like you said, they were looking for a gotcha moment, unfortunately.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why does it have to be this? Why do we have
Mhm.
to why does the way that she categorizes the color of her skin, like, why is that so important? Listen to the
Mhm.
music and shake your ass. Like,
No, yeah. But I mean, because I think it is important when you have such a big platform, yes, to address the context of where you're coming from and your country's history and everything like that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you should appease others and basically not show up as who you are and identify as how you want to be identified, right?
hmm
And then even Charlemagne, he said himself that eventually he understood where she was coming from, her explanation. So again, they're that conversation just didn't need to be had.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah, but
was
okay.
not a scholar.
Mm,
Like she's brilliant and she's very creative, but she is in our lives because she wants to be a musician. She's not here to explain the history of race in South Africa. It's a lot of responsibility, especially because, and I feel like also it's not, people aren't trying to, not a lot of people are trying to listen. They're just
mm,
trying to be like, oh, well, but my history. We are we're the world at large, but the Black community specifically is very aware of the history of Black Americans, African Americans, and they're not aware of our history and they're not
mhm,
willing to listen to it because we're not saying, at no point has Tyla said, I'm going to say colored whether you like it or not. She's like, but this is my thing. And so it's just the dissonance is unfortunate.
yeah. And also how when Tiwa was saying two truths can be true or something around those lines, I think also again that could have been an endpoint where it's
Mhm,
like we may not see eye to eye all the way, but how I view things is different from you, and that's okay. You don't have to attack me, or like you said, people don't want to listen. So it's, do you want to attack or do you want to gain more insight of why I'm saying these things?
mhm.
And I know, like I said before, it's a touchy subject, but since we're here and we're talking about Tyla and everything, I wanted to know if possibly you can maybe get like a mini breakdown of how colored is still a way that people identify in South Africa
Yeah.
today.
It's not, I mean, I wouldn't even describe it as a touchy subject. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess depending on where you are, but yes, the colored population in South Africa, in Southern Africa, because they're not just in South Africa, there's colored people in Namibia, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia. They are, they come from, they're multiracial. It's from when the Dutch colonized, it's from the Khoi, who are indigenous to Southern Africa. It's from when the Malays came. They're multicultural, and Afrikaans, the language that that colored people speak, is kind of like a version of Dutch Creole, if I can describe it as that.
Mm,
So colored people in South Africa specifically have built their own culture, have built their own, you know, they're a part of South Africa, like that's just, I that's how we describe them, that's how they describe themselves. And now younger generations are starting to identify more in their blackness, but still say that their culture is colored, the same way that I'm black, but my ethnicity is Zulu. You know what
mm,
I mean? And so, yeah, it's just always been a part of, not all, well, yeah, I guess always been a part of our culture. And I grew up knowing that colored was a derogatory word in the US and that had been used in a way to harm black people. But I was able to separate that, okay, it means that to some people, but it means this to these people, and context matters.
right. And some people have been saying of how basically not everything revolves around the US. And I think sometimes some people don't want to accept that, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I just hope it's not a thing that, I mean, I don't know, but I hope it's not a thing that follows her for the rest of her career. Or people being like, oh, I'll never listen to her because she said this and that. I don't know. It just seems that it's kind of overshadowing what she's doing when it comes to music. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, if we're going to be a global village, then we all have to listen and learn about each other in order to coexist. We can't just, then you're like the
mm,
empire, like you're saying, part of being, and sorry if this is offensive, but it's true, part of being Black American, African American is the American part, which is to believe that you are the center of the universe. And I
mm,
know that it doesn't feel like that within the US, but then when you interact with people outside of it, it's like you're very aware of the fact that you are, you know, where you are. And so let's just listen and learn and listen to music. I don't know.
yes, listen and learn. Yes, exactly. And then transitioning into the next topic. So I want to talk about the whole Tyla versus Ayra Starr situation. And social media has been pitting them against each other for a few years now. But even more recently, it's become more frequent after the recent Global Citizens Festival.
Mm,
And and even like I was mentioning before with the girl next door, they've been supporting each other. They've been showing love, coming together. And I just know that unfortunately it's a common thing for people to pit black women against each other. But why do you believe it's become so extreme between the fans of Tyla and Ayra?
I I think it's exactly like you said. It's we Pop culture has always tried to pit black women against each other because there's this belief that there can only be one when they're both doing just fine and they're both catering to their audiences, and so there's no need for there to be competition. I think
Mhm.
that there's also Nigerians and South Africans culturally tend to compete, kind of like I see it as like the two oldest siblings trying to like, you know, not
Yeah.
oldest, we're all 54 are important and we love you all, but
Yeah.
but I just see it as this like competitiveness. And so I think that plays into it. I think it's this like silly lack mentality that there can only be one, but also just, yeah, like Ira is beautiful and sexy and talented, and so is Tyler. So like it's never or, it's always and.
Mhm.
We can have both. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think the same way that there's multiple pop artists like Lady Gaga and who else? Ariana Grande. Why is it when it comes to African women now, it's, oh, there can only be one. Oh no, she's copying her. I mean, there's similarities, yes, but why is it now this whole thing of someone is copying the other? I just think in in pop music, when it comes to white women, you don't see that as often, and it's just an unfortunate situation because there's already barely a lot of African women who are able to be successful in the music industry. Like, yes, of course, we have Tams, Ayra, Tiwa, Simi. Like, we have artists, right? But to be mainstream and global, that's not something you see every day. So why now that we see these two young African women doing it, now it's, oh, we're just gonna do all this rage baiting, and it just really takes away from the beauty of the music and the beauty of what they're doing because it's not easy what they're doing, but now it's, oh, she copied it. It's just so stupid when you sit and think about it.
Because at the end of the
Like,
day, you're sitting behind a screen. Like
exactly.
they're both just out there, like you said, supporting each other, living their dream lives, and you're saying, "Oh, but this one's more and this one's that." And it's like, okay, girl.
Yeah, it's very strange. But for me, I'm a fan of both. I don't care. I'm not hopping on no hate train. Like, no, I can support both fully, and that's completely fine.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then also, I know, we've been showing love to Tyla, but I also want to try to show some love to more South African women who are killing it in the music business. And I know for me, someone who I've been following for a bit now is Kamo Mfela. I hope I'm
Nutella.
pronouncing her Mfela. Yeah. She she's just everything. Her energy is just always on 10. Her dancing is amazing, and recently the party video, like that was one of the best videos of the year for me too. And I don't know, I just really love her,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah. But who are some artists that you've been listening to or who you would want to like give them their flowers when it comes to the South African women?
Oh, there are, oh my gosh, there's so many. There are like the singers, well, they're all singers, but the singers,
Mm,
it's giving Zaki. She is an amazing singer. There's another singer named Ami Faku, who is an amazing singer. Um, TXC is a amapiano duo.
mm,
Baddies.
yeah.
Good woman. Again,
Mm,
like,
mm,
it's fine. There's Dubin Gogo, who's another amapiano DJ. She is love, 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 love. And oh my gosh, who else? Z Ngumalo is another amapiano DJ who I really like a lot. But no, the girlies are killing it. Kamo, like you
yes.
said, the girlies are.
They're really eating, yeah. And I'm just excited when it comes to South African artists getting more shine because as we know, Nigeria has been stealing the spotlight a little bit, but I'm just happy to see more love being shown to South African artists, and I just hope to continue learning more about them. And yeah, I just it's beautiful to see, honestly. And I'm happy for Tyla, of course, and I just hope she doesn't dim her light for anyone and she just continues to show up as her full South African self. So yeah.
I wish the same. I wish the same.
Mm. Yeah, well, thank you so much again, Z, for joining me to talk all things Tyla. And as I said, like the Tyla hate train, I'm not falling for that
Get off the
propaganda. Yeah,
train.
yeah,
Get
let's get off the
off.
train. Yeah. But
Like,
thank you.
thank
Yes,
you
well,
so much
thank
for
you.
having me. Love my girl Tyler. So happy to chat with her. And thank you for having me on your platform. I'm so
Yes,
excited.
of course. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.